Alright, 24, Standard 24, Substandard D. We're going to look at and analyze Cesar Chavez and the United Farm Workers Movement, UFW. And in this 24D, we're going to be looking at, like we have with the last couple of videos, we're going to analyze the impact of social change movements in the United States and organization in the 1960s. Cesar Chavez and his UFW movement, United Farm Worker Movements, was a movement for migrant Hispanic farmers. Some of them were Filipino. But we're looking at Cesar Chavez and the UFW, United Farm Workers, as a social change movement and an organization. And we talked about a few of these already: the Civil Rights Movement, Women's Liberation Movement, Anti-Vietnam War Movement. Now we're on UFW and Cesar Chavez here. So we're going to focus on that only in this video. And here's Cesar Chavez, a leader of this United Farm Workers Movement. Their slogan was "Si se puede," and that means yes, it is possible, or yes, it can be done. And Barack Obama played on this, trying to get the Hispanic vote, and he says yes, we can, was his slogan, his first election. But "Si se puede" is yes, it is possible, or yes, it can be done. This was the slogan of the United Farm Workers Movement with Cesar Chavez. Here's a few of his quotes. "Preservation of one's own cultures does not require contempt or disrespect for other cultures. We draw our strength from the very despair in which we have been forced to live. We shall endure." So Hispanic farm workers, or farm workers period, these migrant workers that come into the country and back and forth, really were mistreated in the United States with low wages, harsh working conditions. Cesar Chavez is going to lead this movement for collective bargaining with these farm owners and paying these workers more money and giving them maybe some workman's compensation if they get hurt, or paying them a minimum wage even. And that's what this United Farm Workers Movement was about. And it was founded in 1962 by Cesar Chavez here. Supported the rights for migrant farm workers. Migrant means they moved a lot to find work. They come into the United States. Some were legal, some were not. He conducted hunger strikes as a protest, marches and demonstrations. One of his main sources of inspiration was Martin Luther King Jr. And we're going to see in a few minutes some other historical influences. But he also used nonviolent protest. He's going to boycott California table grapes with the UFW here because the minimum wage would not be raised. And by 1970, he's going to get a successful labor contract from these grape owners, and that's going to be part of the movement. Migrant workers are these workers that go in these fields and do a lot of labor intensive, really hot work, really hard work with this lettuce and with these grapes, and other farm workers, loading watermelons and oranges and those type of things out here in this hot weather. Even children working out here doing this work. A lot of these migrant farm workers are taken advantage of by these farm owners, by these companies that are getting these fruits out into the market and selling them into these markets. And so we see that Cesar Chavez and this movement gains momentum because of the bus boycott with Martin Luther King Jr. and SCLC. Look at some parallels here. The African Americans in Montgomery boycotted the buses there. Here the Hispanic workers in the UFW are going to boycott California table grapes. This is nonviolent peaceful protest is what it is, and marches. He's going to do the same thing over here. He follows this example of successful protest and demonstration to get things done. And Cesar Chavez is going to be involved in the Delano grape strike. It's going to begin on September 8, 1965. It's going to last more than 5 years, and then 1970 success. The strike was a significant victory for the United Farm Workers, leading to the first contract with grape growers to benefit almost 10,000 farm workers right here. So he succeeds in reaching a collective bargaining agreement in which minimum wages were increased, I think from $1 to $1.40 or $1.60 an hour. at the time was minimum wage, and that in 1970 this successful collective bargaining contract or agreement to raise minimum wage for these migrant workers will come from this Delano grape strike. And there's Cesar Chavez holding a sign, boycott grapes. And there's some people back here, boycott grapes and lettuce. There's blood on those grapes. Here's a picture of some grapes we're talking about here. Another protest. The huelga, it means strike here. And that's, if you see those signs anywhere, that means strike. They ask these workers to go on strike with them. Cesar Chavez also did hunger strikes, and here he is with Robert Kennedy right before Robert Kennedy was assassinated. He's running for president. Robert Kennedy was a friend to the labor movement of Hispanics and the United Farm Workers, so you see his little lapel pin there supporting these workers. And here's Cesar Chavez here on a hunger strike. It's part of his Catholic religion and in penance, suffering and penance, this hunger strike, but also he was influenced by Mahatma Gandhi, who liberated India from Great Britain by doing hunger strikes. And so we see that civil disobedience is very much a strategy used by Cesar Chavez and the United Farm Workers movement. Just as Martin Luther King Jr. was influenced by these men, so is Cesar Chavez. And there he is here holding his sign. So that's Cesar Chavez and the United Farm Workers movement. The UFW is the organization, and Cesar Chavez was the leader. So that concludes that United Farm Workers movement. Alright, so in that we have analyzed Cesar Chavez and the United Farm Workers movement as a social change movement and organization in the 1960s. Good luck on the quiz, test, and the EOCT.